Okay, I think we're good. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today for the College Algebra Student Success Project Community of Practice. So a really great opportunity to share how everything has been going with the pilot project, learn from one another, what our strengths, what our challenges, where we kind of see ourselves as we wrap up the end of this fall semester. Jenna will definitely be sharing some data with us, so that's all very exciting. So I'll just go ahead. I'm Lily Massa-McKinley with the Kentucky Student Success Collaborative, which is an initiative of the Council on Post-Secondary Education, and I'm just happy to serve as a convener and facilitator for this group. So I will pass it to Kasha.
Hey, Kasha, Bluegrass. You're the one, I'm the one that posts all your reports every week. So we're just trudging along. There's been a higher, and I am curious to hear how other institutions are doing, a significantly higher rate of non-participation by students as a whole. At least that's what we're seeing. Like they're just either they quit showing up or they're just not doing anything. So I would really like to hear that we're not the only school going through that. Otherwise, everything else is going great, but I have a great peer guide. So that helps.
I'll go next so I can respond. Hi, Brandon Bartley at Jefferson. Kasha, yeah, I mean, we're seeing it in not only this cohort of classes that we're working with, but I've had other faculty approach me just overall. Like John Long came to me and he said he's got students that are coming to class that have not done anything for over a month, but they are still in the classroom every class, like on top of the ones that we get that just disappear and so forth. So he's like, he doesn't know what they're thinking. Like, well, anyways, like I think there was one student that had like a 0.65%, no joke, 0.65%,
Oh God,
and still coming to class. So
that's some kind of dedication.
I don't understand. Yeah.
This is Jenny. I'll go next. I'm Jenny Stewart with Southeast. And we're seeing similar things as Brandon is, but also just in my class, my online class, I have never seen as many students fail tests and refuse to get help. I offer help. The peer guide offers to hook them up with the tutor. They just go on there and they're still doing the work. They're going on the merry way. But I gave a proctored exam on chapter 3 just to make sure that they had the hardware and everything went smoothly for their final. I had a student make a 10. I'm seeing a low teen scores on stuff. It's very, and the same people seem to be on this peer guide report over and over again. So.
Tyra or Tira, is it Tyra?
It's Tara. That's okay. Yeah,
Tara.
It's
Okay.
odd spelling. I'm Tara Frick from West Kentucky, and I'm the coordinator. I'm not one of the math faculty members, so I'm kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage. I'm kind of the go-between between our peer guide and the math faculty, and they were tied up today and unable to attend this meeting. One of the things that we have talked about is we still use Starfish to flag students, and we're kind of overlapping. So these students are getting Starfish flags raised and success coaches are following up. And then we have the peer guide they're getting flagged through the report and the peer guide is reaching out. So we've got to negotiate kind of a hierarchy of needs. What the success coach would reach out for and what the peer guide would reach out for. And the peer guide, I talked with him yesterday and he thinks he does the best in reaching out to students who have like stopped working on problems, not necessarily stopped doing assignments, but have kind of I guess hit a tough point and need some encouragement, some direction, and possibly connection to tutoring. Whereas the students who have just stopped doing things need more, a stronger intervention that the success coach could offer. So that's where we are at this point.
I like that. That means really you're focusing on that, just the behavior trend more so than the others. So are you divvying them out so they are doing work? Are you subsetting, I guess? They are doing work and having the trend, or are you not looking at last assignment completed and just looking at the trend?
Well, that's what we're going to have to, because what we're seeing is we're looking at all of it, and the faculty are too, and raising starfish flags. So we're funneling a bunch of resources in one place, and it may be overwhelming to the student, and it may not be the wisest use of all of our resources. So we've got to figure out what to align with the success coach and what to align with the peer guide.
I like that.
Tara, I do like what you said about the peer guide saying that he felt like he did better with students who had stopped working on the problems. So they were still like getting to assignments, but that seems like another way to describe this giving up behavior that we've been looking for, because the giving up behavior is at a problem. Like they're giving up on problems. It's not that they're not doing assignments. So it seems to really fit with that. And I think that's a really good target for the peer guides to be using as a reason to reach out to students. Let's see. We've still got Scott, Katrina, Angie, and Jennifer or Jen Shoemaker.
Jennifer.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
I wish I had $1 for every time somebody put an R on the end of it. It's quite okay. So I'm Jennifer Shoemaker. I'm the Dean of the Mathematics and Sciences Division at Sky. So I'm just here mainly just to get caught up and see if there's anything that I need to help with.
Hey, everybody. I guess it's my turn. So, I'm Scott McClendon from Somerset Community College. I apologize. I was driving from my dual credit class over here, so I couldn't really say anything in the truck, so I didn't want to say with a bunch of road noise. But we are chugging along over here in Somerset. It took longer than expected to do an onboarding to find a person and then get them in the Casey's TCS system. But I dig. So she's a student that's been working with some of the other programs that we have. But what we've been doing is looking at. So we got kind of a late start. So we've been looking at specifically those ones that you all are talking about, like those ones that are just not doing it. They've not been in the course since September. We're really trying to reach out with phone calls and be more hands-on with those students. And then she's using texting and emails for some of those students that aren't completing assignments or are giving up, somewhere around the 80 to 40% range. She's getting very little feedback. Like she's getting a lot of dead wall. Phones don't work or no return to emails. She's getting to a couple that are. She's reached out to a few students, and I think it's helped. I'll put it that way. But there is some apathy going on. She's kind of, she's a really good student, and she would reach out to another student saying, you probably should. You're not, we have tutoring available, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll get caught up on it. Or I think one person just told her, like, no, I'm not going to do anything else. Or she's like, oh, okay, well, let me know if you need any help. I mean, she's kind of flabbergasted by some of the phone calls she's had. So I have had some colleagues come in and talk to me about students that are they still show up with smiles on their face and act like they're active participants in class, but have not done any work at all. So even to the point where she's told the students, as a group, there's a withdrawal policy, you can't withdraw if, and they still don't even act like it's phased them. So there are some issues. Our withdrawal rate is actually, we kind of keep up with it within our math department. Our withdrawal rate is low. this semester. It's actually lower than it was before, like in previous semesters. So these students are hanging on, whether they need to or not, but they are hanging on in our, and I'm starting to see some more withdrawals to be approved. But we got a late start, I guess is kind of the moral of the story. In the spring, we feel like we now have our feet under us and can start off with just hit the ground running in the spring. Also, we have what's called college navigators, and they've reached out to me. The coordinator for that reached out to me the other day, and we're going to try to have some type of collaboration on that front. So, I mean, that's what she's. Oh, and the other thing, I guess the actual student that I've got doing this for me, you know, she's getting to the point of the semester where she's overloaded with doing what she needs to do as a student. So, and at this point, I know we're trying to reach out ahead of time, and I think we may have passed that point anyways. So, but she's trying, and the response back for her, you know, I don't know if they're reading the emails or not, but she's reaching out to people.
That's good to hear, Scott. And when we get into talking about the data, I want to come back to what you're saying about like the apathy and lack of response from students, because there is some stuff there to talk about. Also, I think Kasia added an item to the agenda to talk about how we're getting to the point in the semester where the messaging changes because we're so close to the end of the term now. So yeah, I'm glad you brought both of those up. Thank you. Let's see, we've got Katrina, Angie, and Chris. And I think that covers all of our campuses.
I'll go. I'm Katrina Flory. I'm in Madisonville. I am math faculty and the coordinator for this. And what I've noticed here lately, the last few reports, that I have fewer students that have the higher giving up percentage, but I'm not sure if that's because the ones who were giving up are now not working at all. So we'll see. I'm hoping that this has helped. I know that our peer guide has done a lot of outreach. She's also a tutor in our learning center, and she's also an embedded tutor in my Math 150 online. So she's been busy. So I'm hoping that has helped.
Hey, this is Angela from Sky CTC, and you know, we're probably kind of all repeating similar experiences, but I have noticed it has been surprising how long some students have, you know, waited in between working on things, and that we are kind of contacting some of the same people. Of course, we're changing the methodology each time, but we haven't had a whole lot of feedback, but we have seen at least that they're reading the emails, you know, because we have the read reports on them. You know, we have some like workshops in our tutoring center. So we want to see if maybe the attendance to those has increased or not, because we've been kind of pushing those that, you know, people can go not only for one-on-one tutoring, but if they want to go to like to study session, they can do that. So overall, of course, it'll be interesting at the end of the semester to see the data of how, if it, you know, if it made a difference or not. I just also am a little worried about overwhelming students if it's just too much email and text and all that. I don't want to get on their nerves. But anyway, that's where we are right
now. Chris, I think you're finishing us off.
Yeah. Sorry, I came into a little bit late, but I guess I'm assuming that we're just talking about what our, you know, what our results been kind of so far this semester. And as I've been looking at the data, it's been there's obviously there's students that we've been reaching out to that haven't been active for a while and stuff, and just haven't been get a hold of, leaving voicemails and sending emails and stuff like that, no responses. But there's also some people that that she'll call and actually get hung up on her as well too. So that's been happening a little bit. But also she's reaching in touch with some students. Some people are like, maybe they were focusing on certain classes and falling behind in this one. And so it was like, thanks for the wake up call. I'm gonna get back on board type of thing. And so I guess, some time management things going on here and there. Various different reasons for why, people are going out, but usually I have them send out, she sends out an email with resources and stuff regardless, to make sure that they're on track and have the things that they need in order to stay focused on things. I'd say the bulk of the time when calls are made that there probably isn't a response, or email as well, that they don't necessarily respond all the time, but sometimes you get a little bit of response with a little bit of explanation, and usually that tends to be a positive result, jolt to kind of get them in the order, at least say some big brother's watching on my shoulder. But then of course there's some of them that go a little bit more flagrant. So
A couple quick things. A lot of the worry about overwhelming students with the constant communication. I do take a break. If they've been contacted 3 weeks in a row, I cut them off for a week, maybe 2, before I go back,
Okay.
to help avoid some of that. And so what I do is, the first contact's usually just an email. Here's the resources, blah, blah, blah. If I don't get a response, or if they show up on the next week, then I upgrade it to a text. Third week, upgrade it to a phone call. If we've had no success, I cut them off for a week or 2, and then I'll get them back. So that's an option to consider, because there is that aspect of being overwhelming. But at the same time, we don't want to neglect them completely, because we've also seen where 3 weeks later we contact them, and like you said, they're now going, oh yeah, and thank you for reaching out. Now, here's my tutoring, or they withdraw.
Right.
What was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, I wanted just a quick question. How many of your groups are sending out kudos after exams?
Well, we don't necessarily have anybody automatically sending them after exam. It's up to the instructor, but we just have, I know there are 3 periods per semester that we do send out kudos. So there's already been, but not after exam specifically for any instructors. That's kind of more optional.
I'm not talking about starfish kudos. I'm talking about part of this group, peer outreach kudos.
Oh, okay. No, we haven't done it as part of this group.
And that's fine. But as we move this on to the spring, because the first semester,
That's what
as we move this on to spring, it's sometimes difficult with our reports, and some of you may not be able to manage this, and that's fine. But we have found much greater response rates as an indicator that, yes, students are paying attention, because sometimes that's really what you're hoping for is, are you paying any attention? Is after an exam, we will send out a kudos for anybody that made a 70% or higher. That's all we say is, it looks like you're doing great, or, things have improved, and we send out a kudos, because what that does is it means the peer guide doesn't just get associated with negative messaging.
Right.
So we've got to balance that out so they don't just ignore the peer guide because it becomes an annoyance and they're in trouble. We've also sent out, this semester, I've done it a lot more. And mind you, I'm in my 3rd semester of doing this, so understand where I am in relation. This semester, I sent out a lot more of good luck on the exam emails. So if it's the week prior to the exam, and I know it's a week prior to the exam, and they're not being flagged for anything, I'll reach out to the other group of students that aren't showing up on our list for flags, right? I'll reach out to that group of students and I'll send them out a quick, good luck on the, you know you have an exam next week. Here's some resources. Good luck on your exam. And just, again, creating more of a engagement, I guess, not just a penalty relationship with the peer guide. But in order to do this, you have to know the teaching calendars. So that means I have to open up my teaching calendars. I have all my syllabi, right, for all the sections I'm doing, and I have to open up my teaching calendars to figure out where they are in the semester to know when I send those out. And of course, if they fall behind or whatever, I can't really do anything about that. They just means the kids are getting the message a little early. Right. But anyhow, that's just a suggestion to help balance out the overwhelming communications for one, and we don't want our peer guide to always be associated with only negative messaging. I think that's a very important aspect. So as you move forward in the spring, maybe see if you can find a way to work in some of those more encouraging, just positive, hey, everything looks good. If not, let me know, good luck, or kudos on your exam, just from the peer guide. So there you go. 2 comments.
Thanks, Kasha. Lily, I don't have our agenda open. Where are we at after the intros?
We're at data if you want to share anything, Jenna.
Yeah, so I would like, first of all, I really appreciate all the feedback that you all have been sending me, especially when the feedback includes specifics. That makes it so much easier to track down things and make adjustments or fixes. There's always kind of a learning curve with a new set of reporting or new schools. And so I just want to say I really appreciate both the patience and the specific feedback from this group. And since the last community of practice meeting, we've been collecting the outreach data. So what students are getting outreach on what days, and some notes sometimes about like if the students are responding, kind of some notes about what that response looks like, or what is triggering the outreach, like we're reaching out because they haven't been coming to class or they're not doing assignments, or this giving up trend, which has been kind of a main focus here of this project. And as I'm listening to all of you give your updates today, I am noticing something that Kasha and I saw last year as well, which is a lot of the students that are getting outreach aren't responding to it. So it can be hard to know. Sometimes if you don't have read receipts, it's even hard to know if they looked at it. And it can be, I know, sort of discouraging for the peer guides to not be getting responses or to get negative responses. I wanted to show you what this particular giving up behavior looks like and how the outreach is impacting it, even when students aren't responding to the peer guides. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and try to make it so I can see you guys too. Just a few slides I wanted to show with you. Excuse me. I meant to say share with you, not show. It's been a long week already and it's only Wednesday morning. At this point in the semester, we have a little bit over 61,000 next sessions. So that doesn't count the first time a student logs on. These are when they're coming back. That's actually a really good size data set. And if we take this particular behavior of students who are giving up on homework problems and we graph it across all of the sessions, we see kind of what we would expect for any behavior or trend or attribute. It's a fairly normal curve. There's a good peak here at the no change mark. But if you look over here, even that peak is below 16% of the total sessions. So if we take that away, curve looks even a little bit more normal. You see some high points where it's 100% less, 50% less, 50% more, and 100% more. But you do see kind of a spread across the board. So what I wanted to show you especially is if we look from session X to session X plus 1 and see what the change looks like across all 61,000 next sessions, about 43% of the time students are giving up less. So they're coming back and they're answering one more problem, or they're sticking with it a little bit more. About 44% of the time they're giving up more, and about 13% there's no change. They're staying where they were in the last session. But, and this is the part I get really excited about, here's what happens when there's outreach, not kudos, not introductions, but outreach because something was flagged on the report. That giving up decrease climbs a good, 4.5% roughly, which means we've got 4.5% more students who are coming back better. They're trying harder, they're persisting more. And this is whether they respond to the outreach or not. This could even include angry responses. So the peer guide calls them and they hang up, or anything like that. This is just having that outreach when they need it. And it's, 5% more of them are improving with that. It also drops the no change down to do that. So I wanted to share this with you guys at the middle of the term and kind of review, like, this is a good change to go from, a 43% improvement to a 47% improvement. That's a really good change, and that kind of tracks with what Kasha and I saw last year for the behavior changes. So to me, it's exciting because it suggests that we're on track for some good improvements with it. Of course, we can't look at grades with it until after the end of the term. But like I said, I did want to share this with you. When your peer guides are reaching out to people, even if they're hanging up or they're not responding, that outreach is still making an impact in students' behavior the very next time they show up to work on homework. So I wanted to share that with all of you. I think that's really promising and exciting. And I'm really looking forward to continuing with this. So there you go. Any questions, concerns, comments, confusions? Any other C words? Cookies, who knows? All right, I will go ahead and stop that. And I can share this deck with you guys if you're interested in it. I also wanted to do a reminder as we get to the close of the semester. The next time we're getting together as a community is in January. But what I'm wanting to do for the January meeting is to share not just the behavior change, like what I was talking about today, but also to be able to speak to the grade outcomes for the courses. So by way of a reminder, I know I think for all of you, the semester ends the first week of December. And we are expecting to have the grade data by December 19th following our schedule. So that lets me go through and look not just at the behaviors, but also at the grades. So for that, and there will be like email and Teams reminders as well. We want the final grades for these courses, and then we want to be able to compare it to the pass or the success rates from the previous year. I don't know if is the success rate thing a KCTCS broadly, or is that a Bluegrass thing, Kasha?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So the success rate that we were tracking, the A, B, and C grades. So we want to be able to compare to previous years. So we need the final grades for this semester and then the success rate for last fall, so that we can say, okay, here's the fall 2021 success rate, here's the fall 2022 success rate. So that's the highlight thing with that. And
their IPRE person, if they themselves don't have access to that data, their IPRE or whatever your data person is called, they have access to that where they can give you a chart of the semester and the number of A's, B's, C's, whatever. So they should be able to get that information
That's
through
what
their
I was going to say
institution.
too, Kasha. Yeah, I've looked at the ones for math lately, and you only want it for college algebra. Do you want it for every section of college algebra at the institution?
Yeah, how do you want that?
So we definitely want to be able to compare this year to last year. Maybe depending on how your institution works, if it makes more sense to go by individual instructors, or here's our online sections, or however that works. I know all the institutions are a little bit different. It also
Again,
works
based on
to
what
just
Kasha said, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, it depends on what you want, because we can get
Sure.
them to send it to us
Yeah, we
based on
can
the
get 'em.
instructor, or yeah, we can have it broken down. So it really depends on how you
So-
want that information.
We would need
Beth,
we would need to have last fall's success rates for MAT 10 or MAT 150 sections, but make
or
sure
161 for the
or
one
whatever the
campus
course
that does
is.
that. Yeah.
Whatever the course is, just make sure dual credit is excluded from that list.
No high school students.
No, we need the dual, any specific high school, sections taught at the high school need to be excluded. And it would be best if, like in our case, we only do 16-week classes. So I would only want to compare to success rates from 16-week classes from last fall. So try to make sure that whatever your last fall data set matches the type of sections you did this fall. That's modality as well as session length. Because we're math, we understand comparisons. So we need to be able to do a head-to-head comparison. And for this semester, it actually would be nice if you didn't do all your sections, like I don't think any of us did, to have break down that success rate for this semester as well, with participation and non-participation, if that's possible.
And that's what I was getting ready to say. So I could probably send both sets, right? The rates for the ones that participated, and the rate for the overall, and the rate for the ones that didn't participate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Just let me know what you want, and then that's what I'll
I'll work with Jenna, and we'll that way we're all talking the same language to our institutions. Let me work with Jenna on fine-tuning some language of what specific data sets we're looking for. And then you can pass that on to your IR or whoever, whoever does that kind of thing. And get that data that way. I mean, it's not hard to get that data for the people who have access to it. We don't need you manually going in and trying to run all the, that gets a little complicated.
Kasha, we have a lot of, we have a lot of terms. We've got 8, 12, and 16 weeks. So get those separately so we can compare separately, because we had the same ones in the fall.
Yeah, if you're doing a lot of different terms, that means we'll need to break it down even further.
Yeah. Really, like at a very abstract level, like Kasha said, what we're going for here is an apples to apples comparison. So fall 21 8-week courses to fall 22 8-week courses, fall 22 8-week participants to fall 22 8-week non-participants. Just being able to compare like with like, so that we don't end up, comparing a 16-week high schooler course with an 8-week regular student course. Because in things like that, we'd expect to see differences anyway, and they'd have nothing to do with the other stuff we've got going on. So
Dual credit skews everything.
Yeah.
It's
No
just-
high school students.
They're just a whole different animal.
So we have some courses that have some high school students in it, but
That's okay. If they're taking it at your institution,
okay.
Yeah.
that's okay. It's not that it's no high school, it's that it's no specific
school
high school
only.
sections.
Okay, I got you.
We all have random high school students taking our college courses,
Right.
but they're BCTC students to do that. Or
Yeah.
BCTC, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Or Gateway or West.
Yeah,
Or,
exactly.
yeah.
So they're okay. We don't have to break them out. But those specific dual credit sections, unless you did this outreach, which I think we said no to that one anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those specific dual credit sections, we have to exclude those.
All right, and you don't want any separation between in-person versus online or anything like that?
Actually, we'll probably keep that as a column in the data set because that will be helpful for us as well.
Okay.
So
All
like
right.
I said, we'll get together. I'll get together with Jenna and we'll create like a template of essential data, so to speak. That you can forward on to your IR to get so that we have the data. Jenna has the data she needs to do her thing.
Yep. And we've got a while between now and when those data sets are expected. So
Well, yeah, we
If you-
can't really,
yeah.
we can't run those.
they can't be run until after the term. But what I mean is, like, Kasha and I will get together, we'll work on the wording or a template. And if you wake up Friday morning and go, man, I forgot to ask this question, you can email me, you can send Teams messages. There's a window of time here to make sure it makes sense to everyone. So, Lily, I think that covers the stuff I wanted to go over in terms of some initial data as well as looking ahead to the next data set. So
Wonderful.
There
Kasha,
we
did
go.
you want to spark the conversation around winding down communications?
Yeah, so at this point, we're pretty much reaching the point of no return for some of our students. So we have already started changing our messaging. This week, we made the switch in our messaging to where it was much more, now's the time, time's running out. You need to speak to your instructor to see what opportunities still exist for you to be successful. Or time's running out. Please see your instructor and advisor immediately. We're not saying withdraw. We can't say that, right? And we don't really have enough data with our reports to say that anyway. But we have changed that messaging to be a lot less about here's your resources, let's push on. So if they are in that group of students that we know have just disappeared and given up, right? That we see it but week after week after week after week, yet they still haven't withdrawn. We're sending them to their advisors to see if they need help with withdrawals or anything along those lines. Again, just be careful you don't say to withdraw because we don't want our peers doing anything like that. But our peers can direct them to the advising center, success coaches, whatever your college uses as a point person for that student to assist with registration, withdrawals, registering for the next semester, make referrals out to them. If they're still in that, it's possible they can pass, then we're sending them to their instructor to make an action plan. One of my peer guides from last semester had a really good, reach out to your instructor. So see what opportunities exist and create an action plan so you can end the course on a high note. Just very prescriptive, right? Saying, look, you've got to reach out to your instructor. This is not going to happen. This is not going to work. And
this is, oh, sorry, Kasha.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is where one of the places where that peer voice became so invaluable, because Kasha and I, speaking from an instructor or a former instructor perspective, are getting to this point of the term and thinking like, there's just no way you can pass at this point. Like, you'd have to wake up tomorrow morning as a completely different student. And it comes across a little less helpful. And so this is where having that peer voice of like, okay, here's who to reach out to and here's who you need to talk to next really helped a lot, I think.
And the other thing you can do is the last week of the semester, not finals week, so the week before finals week, have your peer guide send out a last message. Like, don't do flags really at that week. I probably wouldn't. I would, well, maybe I would. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. So still got a week or two. But anyone that's been in the course, send out a thank you for letting me help, not you, the peer guide. Thank you for letting me work with you this semester. I hope you found our interactions to be helpful. I wish you the best of luck on your final exam. Just that wrap up type of email communication. So students, again, recognize they have been part of a project, right? And that the peer guide really is interested. And that's, again, that's also the last time you could just say, and if you still have any questions or any issues, please don't hesitate to reach out. Or you can have them remind of any review sessions that are coming up. Some of you have different, outreach type things or supplemental tutoring, whatever, let them give that feedback and give that information to the students to kind of wrap up the semester. So we always want to make sure we end on a good note, even if they've been receiving bad emails all semester. So that, like I said, at this point, we start changing our messaging, because sending them to tutoring at this point, in the majority of cases, if they've been a multiple offender, isn't going to help them. Now, if they're just now getting flagged for trend and that's it, then yes, that messaging stays on track, because they tend to, especially at this point, let's say you have the student who hasn't needed any assistance and then suddenly they reach that chapter where everything falls apart. They really do appreciate that outreach, even this late in the semester, reminding them how to connect with tutoring. We had some responses this week that were last week and this week, that were very much like that. It's like, oh yes, thank you so much, because I've now reached that point where I need help. So don't give up on the behavior trends, because that's still our biggest indicator of those that are reaching a new struggle point. Think of it that way. So,
Kasha, you know what would be helpful, not only for this semester, I guess, but especially for next semester and beyond, if we continue it and we get different coordinators, is a repository of messages for.
They have one in the peer guide.
Yeah, but I'm the one telling them what messages. Yes.
I agree. So I can make a link in our team site to their channel.
Okay.
How's that?
Okay.
So we're not just duplicating efforts. That way it's housed in one place, which is where the peer guides go, but we have access to the different templates. And we change templates. I've changed templates every semester. I mean, it's an ongoing process. We don't stick with just one messaging. And basically I work with my peer guide and I say, okay, this is what I want to say. I have her rephrase it in the friendly student way. And then she adapts the template. So basically I tell her what message to send, and then she creates the template to go with that message. But yes, I'll link over to their channel so that we have access to it from our team site as well.
In there, do you need help with your coursework? If you don't think you're going to be able to finish by 12/2, which is the withdrawal rate, So I'm gonna have to take out the withdrawal and put something, you should see your professor or your advisor. Okay.
Right. Because one thing we have to run a fine line with is we don't want our students to think our peer guides have that much access to their data, right? So we have to keep our messaging, even though we, as instructors, coordinators, whatever, we can see the picture and we do see some grade work. And if you give the report directly to your peer guides, then they'll see it too. We just have to be careful with that we don't do any advising. Our peer guides aren't advisors. I guess that's really the main statement. Peer guides are not advisors, so we need to make sure their communication is not associated with advising. And that's a fine line when we're actually dealing with performance data, because we do have access to it. But we can still use it. I mean, kudos, obviously, even giving kudos, I'm kind of, I'm walking a really fine line there, okay? Because how would they know to give a kudos if they don't have some indication? But I haven't had any negative feedback on that one, so I'm just gonna let that one slide. But we hesitated because of that reason. So yeah, wording's important, and that's where working with the peer guide, actually having a conversation with the peer guide of, again, this is what I want to say. Now, what would you like to hear as a student? Right? Because they're not the same at all. All right, any other questions kind of about how winding up? So we're going to do a data report. Do think about changing your messaging and working with your peer guides to change the messaging these last few weeks. Again, sending them to the instructor if there's a chance that they could still be successful, or sending them to their instructor or advisor or success coach, or like I said, whoever is the best person to send them to, and start directing the messaging that way. And then I will make a channel in our team site that bridges to the templates in the peer guide team site. And I think Morgan is setting up meetings with them, setting up another meeting with them here at the end as well. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, that's what I got.
All right, wonderful. Any final thoughts or anything else? Okay. Well, I'll send out the notes, Kasha, to you if you don't mind, and you can post them in the team site for everyone. It's really just notes on points that y'all raised, and then of course the deadlines. And then I'll also share the recording back. Or do you potentially have, you don't have access to the recording, do you, Kasha? Because I set up the meeting.
Because you set up the meeting.
Okay, so I'll make sure I get the link to you as well.
That works. I'll get them posted.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks,
And
everybody.
again, don't hesitate to reach out. Me, Jenna, we're here
Yep.
we're here for whatever you need.
Yep. Thank you,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Bye-bye,
Bye, everyone.